Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Camping Camper. Today I wanted to go over some good old-fashioned air conditioner maintenance with you, just about the camper air conditioner. When it's hot in the summer, you want to do everything that you can to keep those air conditioners working as efficiently and just as good as possible. There are two basic things that you can do for this. The first is to keep your filter inside your rig clean. The second is going to be to clean both your evaporator coil and your condenser coils. This is recommended to do at least yearly for most people and more often if you're in a very dusty environment. To be honest, this is the first time that I've ever cleaned the coils, and my camper is about 3 years old. I recently did some work to the roof and thought while I was up there it was going to be a great time to get this done. It's really not that complicated, and I've watched a few different videos on how people have done this. The most recent that I saw was from my friend Ross over at RV Tips and Tricks. He had actually mentioned that a lot of people recommend using a different cleaner for the evaporator coil versus the condenser coil. This is mainly because the Evap Fresh is less toxic smelling, and the evaporator coil could get some smells and stuff. There's some opening there down to your rig, on the inside living space at least. And apparently that Evap Fresh is quite a bit more expensive, so that's why a lot of people use a standard cleaner on the condenser coil and the Evap Fresh on the evaporator coil. I wasn't really worried about this as it was going to be a couple of weeks before I actually used the camper. But I did give my friend Steve a call down at Shelburne RV just to see his take on which cleaner that I should use. He actually recommended a product made by Hill. It's a foaming condenser cleaner. He stated that this product didn't have a strong smell and is good to use on both coils. He actually sponsored a can of this cleaner for this video, so go by and check out his channel and see all the RV messes that they go behind everybody and fix on a continuous basis. I mean, you have no idea until you start following this around. Obviously, the first step to cleaning the air conditioner coils are going to be to access them. For this, you're going to have to get on top of the roof and remove the screws from the shroud of the air conditioner. We have a Dometic 15,000 BTU unit, and there are 2 screws on the front of the shroud and 2 screws on the sides of the shroud. Then the cover just lifts off. On the Dometic unit, there is a styrofoam surround that just lifts off over the evaporator coil. On the Coleman mock units, there is an aluminum structure there that you have to pull up. On my Dometic unit, that styrofoam shroud can stick a little bit, so just be a little careful when you're pulling it up because you don't want to accidentally bend any of these coils. And just pull that thing up and just set it down to the side. Also get your freeze sensor and just pull that out of the evaporator coil. I do want to mention that if you're ever having water running down inside your camper, that's one of the first things that you need to check, and you can see that from down inside the camper after you take your filter off. Because when we first got our camper, it came dislodged and I kept having rain falling down from the inside of the camper and I couldn't figure out why. And then one day I come across a video that showed me why. The other possible thing that you can have is the drainage plugs can be clogged or the seal can not be tight. But start simple. The next step is going to be to take a towel and put down on the inside of the opening of the air conditioner that goes down into your roof so that you don't get a bunch of cleaner that gets dropped down inside your camper. It's pretty common sense. I also put a towel behind my air conditioner on the roof because I recently added some RV armor coating to patch a couple of areas. And I'm going to share a link to that video up here as well. I'm pretty happy with that product. But that stuff does take a little while for that rubber to get really good and hard. And so I didn't want any cleaner to get on that and kind of mess it up while it was drying. Now this project's actually a pretty easy process. Your 2 goals are going to make the fence as straight as possible and as clean as possible. That's all there is to it. First, I sprayed the evaporator coil with a generous amount of the cleaner. Then I went around and sprayed the condenser coil. A lot of the cleaners say that they are no rinse, but from everything that I've seen, people usually do try to rinse them off a little bit. Now be very careful, whatever you do, to try to not bend these fins. They are very easy to bend and distort. I actually did it by accident in one spot just by barely touching it while I was spraying it off. Also, a very light spray from like a water bottle is going to be fine to help rinse this stuff off. If you use a hose, that's okay, but the 2 issues with that is you can get more water down inside your camper because you only have a towel there. And 2, You can bend the fins pretty easy just by spraying it with too much water pressure. If you have a can of cleaner that has bristles on the top, you can use those bristles to kind of help push up and straighten those fins up. Apparently that's supposed to work pretty good. I ordered a set of fin brushes from Amazon and they got delayed. They weren't delivered on time. So I called Steve to see if he had any that I could use. And he said, Barrett, to tell you the truth, I've had cheap ones, I've had expensive ones, none of them work real well. They always seem to make more mess than they help with. And he actually recommended just getting a pocket knife. Says that's what he does, is he gets a pocket knife and goes in there and tries to straighten them out manually, and it usually works out better. I didn't have a pocket knife, but I did have a utility knife with me, so I went through and did that. They didn't come out the best looking, but they are separated where air can get in between them, which is the main concern here. Then all you have to do is pull that towel out that you had protecting the inside of your camper, put that freeze sensor back in the evaporator coil, then add that styrofoam insulation back over the top of the evaporator coil, and put the shroud back on, put the screws back in, and you're all done. It's a pretty easy process. The worst part about it is that you got to get up on the roof, which isn't the funnest thing to do, but it's really not that bad, especially if you have a ladder built onto your camper, right? So guys, thanks for supporting us. Be sure to stick around for our adventure next week.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.